All righty, halftime show. Terry Ford. Ed Bird's here. Kale's hanging around. Tyler's. I won't let Tyler leave yet, so he is trapped here as we are rolling till 3 o'clock here on the game. All right, obviously the big topic of conversation is the umpiring at the College World Series. And the sad part of all this is that instead of talking about LSU winning their second title under Coach Johnson, or LSU now pocketing 8 national championships, second only to Southern Cal in the modern era, and all these other things we should be talking about to honor Southern Cal or honor Coastal Carolina in having the hell of a season that the Chanticleers had. Notice I said it right. No, we're focusing on an umpire. And that's the problem, right? I mean, that's where we're at. That's the issue, is the umpire. Why are we talking about an umpire? Nobody ever said, hey, want to go to a baseball game? I saw that Joe Blow's umpiring. I can't wait to go watch him call balls and strikes. It's magical. You ever watch him work the bases? Wow, what an umpire. No, not at all. So instead, we're sitting here yapping about what an umpire should or shouldn't have done, or what a coach should or shouldn't have done in a situation that really shouldn't have got to the point that it got to. Look, I get the rule, all right? We've all read the rule. We've seen the rule. We understand the rule. You can't argue balls and strikes. We all know that. Anybody that knows baseball or anybody that follows sports with, any kind of intensity understands you can't argue balls and strikes. We know that. But what happens in these situations, if you've watched it, and we'll replay you the cut here in a little bit if you missed it, but what the problem is here is context. And what separates really good umpires from crappy umpires is context. Yes, the minute our guy from Coastal comes out of the dugout, you can run him. Absolutely. Jamie Bradford, we're going to play this cut in a few minutes. Jamie Bradford gave some really interesting insight on how you get thrown out of a game this morning when he was on the early game with Tyler and Preston and Jen. He explained the one magic word you can't say to an umpire in college. And we'll get to that. Now, was that said? Yes, it was, matter of fact, to be quite honest. It was said. So, again, you can throw out Coach Schnall if you want to. That's fine. The rule, you got the beef of the rule with you. But, again, good umpires don't want to throw coaches and managers out. Good umpires understand it's not about them. Good umpires don't have short tempers. The best umpire in the world is this guy. When you leave the game, you go, who was that umpire? I didn't even think about him. It was like he wasn't even there. That's a good umpire. Invisible. Does his job, goes home. But we didn't have that at the College World Series. Now, is that why Coastal lost? No. LSU, to me, is just a better team. Coastal hung in there. Now, could having your coach for 9 innings could have made a difference? Maybe. I don't know. Nobody ever will know the answer to that. But at the end of the day, none of this should have happened because a good umpire, even though he has the power of the rule behind him, understands context and has some common sense and logic. Basically, in that situation, Jamie Bradford this morning explained this perfectly. And here's Jamie Bradford talking again to Tyler and Preston and Jen about the situation with Coach Schnall and the umpire. Why are all the bad umpires first name Angel? Angel Campos and Coach Schnall. That situation, how it should have been handled. Here's Jamie Bradford this morning on the early
Mark
game.
Kingston told me something 2 years ago. 2 years, I'll never forget King telling me this. Because I was joking with him. I said, there might have been maybe 3 years ago, somewhere in there, and it was maybe a year or two removed from when he got thrown out at Vanderbilt. Yeah, he got tossed in Nashville. And I asked King, I said, is that the worst or is that the only time you've been ejected? I can't remember if you've been ejected before. And he was like, no, I've been ejected before. And he kind of smiled. He said, you want to know what the golden rule in ejections is? And I said, what? He said, there's a 3-letter word that you don't use, not a 4-letter word, a 3-letter word. You, Y-O-U. He said, you can say the strike zone has been terrible, or the strike zone sucks, or today sucks, or I thought that call sucked. But if you say you suck, or you've missed 3 pitches, or you missed that call, more times than not, you're going to get run. And, you know, Kevin Schnall did say the word you twice yesterday when he said, you missed 3 pitches. Now, at the same time, I understand what the rule is. I understand you can't argue balls and strikes. I got it. We all know that. That's common sense. Everybody understands that. Everybody knows it. It is Game 2 of the College World Series Finals. You are in charge of the game, not the coach. You're the umpire. You're the home plate umpire. It is your job to call time. If you have to walk over to him and be calm and give him a second, let him say what he needs to say, and then say, Coach, I'm doing everything in my power to not throw you out of the game right now. I want you to understand that. Okay? Maybe I missed calls. Maybe I didn't miss calls. Whatever the case is, we don't argue balls and strikes. If you do it again, I will throw you out. And then you issue the warning publicly so everybody in the ballpark knows, and that's it.
That's what an umpire who is calm and logical, is controlling the moment, and understands the greater, bigger picture, right? It was perfect. Jamie described it perfect. You walk up to the umpire, you walk up to the coach and say, Coach, I need you to take a breath. I need you to understand I'm trying to keep you in the game. You cannot argue balls and strikes. You know that. You can't say the magic word you. You need to calm down. I get the moment. I understand how important it is. Now I need you to go back into the dugout and sit down. Because if you continue arguing balls and strikes, I'm going to throw you out. Right now I'm going to issue the warning that I have to issue you. And if you continue down this road, I will throw you out of the game. But I'm giving you a chance to save yourself and go, please sit down. Because I want you to stay in this game and coach, because it's very important. And that's how you handle it. You diffuse. That's what you do. You don't carry a blowtorch over and make it worse by throwing the guy out. You give him a chance to save himself. But if he can't save himself, that's then on him. That's the way this thing should go at the end of the day. It's very simple. And let's get Coach Schnall, Ed Bird, real quick. This will be cut 6. This is Coach Schnall talking about the ejection from Game 2 of the College World Series Final.
There's 25,000 people there, and I vaguely hear a warning issued. As the head coach, I was assistant for 24 years, and as an assistant, you're almost treated like a second-level citizen, and you can't say a word. Now, as a head coach, I think it is your right to get an explanation of why we got warned. And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man, right? So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me. So at that point, I can now hear him say, it was a warning issued for arguing balls and strikes. And at that point, I said, because you missed 3. At that point, ejected. If that warrants an ejection, I'm the first one to stand here like a man and apologize. 2 words that define our program are own it. And what does that mean is you have to own everything that you do without blame, without defending yourself, without excuses. If you guys watch the video, there was a guy that came in extremely aggressively, tripped over Campos's foot, embarrassed in front of 25,000, immediately goes 2-game suspension and said, bumping the umpire. Immediately does that. There was no bump. He was embarrassed. I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's athleticism. He'll retract it, though, because now it's excessive. And the reason why it's excessive, because I was trying to say, I didn't bump him. It is what it is. But if that warranted an ejection, man, there'd be a lot of ejections. As an umpire, I feel like it's your job to manage the game, the national championship game, with some poise, some calmness, and a little bit of tolerance.
All I know is there needs to be someone to make T-shirts that say I should not be held accountable for another man's athleticism. phenomenal. Now, again, you come out and say you missed 3 pitches. That does, by the letter of the law, that warrants you to get booted. Absolutely. No doubt. But again, a good umpire, which Angel Campos is not, we'll get to him in a minute. A good umpire is going to go, look, man, I don't want to throw you. I don't want to run you. I want you to stay here and coach your team. You guys have had a great year. You're a hell of a coach. Coach Schnall, I'm going to give you a chance to get back to the dugout. I got to give you a warning, but then you got to go back and stop arguing balls and strikes. You got to chill. Because if you keep going, I'm going to run you out of this game. Angel Campos isn't that guy. Angel Campos is a failed major league umpire. He umped in the majors up until like 2014. The rumors of why he was released was inconsistencies in umpire and 2, short fuse. Wow. Shocking. So then Angel Campos decides to stumble into college umpiring. And you're saying, well, Tara, how is this guy who, a failed major league umpire, who obviously has short fuse issues, he is the guy that threw out the Clemson kid a couple of years ago when they were playing Tennessee. And so remember that one? That one was crazy, too. That shouldn't have been an ejection. So here is what Google tells me how they choose umpires for the College World Series. They're selected based on merit with a focus on high ratings and evaluations. Division I Baseball Committee uses a formal nomination process, considers factors like experience, consistency, and the ability to handle high-pressure situations. And man, did Angel Campos handle that well, didn't he? Yeah. I would love to talk to someone from this selection committee, because we love committees, who decided Angel Campos, if we're going by that criteria, maybe he's got really good ratings. Maybe he did a nice job this year calling balls and strikes or calling outs on the bases or whatever the case. I don't know. But his ability to handle high-pressure situations, I think that was a massive fail. Just saying. I just love to talk to someone. I'd love to hear someone say something because, the NCAA put out their generic statement, but why can't anybody talk to Angel Campos? Why can't there be a pool reporter that interviews Campos, like Major League Baseball? Look, I hate the idea that referees and officials and umpires have no accountability in professional sports. And really, let's face it, high collegiate athletics now is a business. You got 25,000 people sitting at Charles Schwab Field. It's on national television. And you have this controversial ejection, and no one's accountable. And the NCAA just puts out the blanket statement. Everybody else is accountable, right? Coaches do pressers, players do pressers. Everybody's accountable now, right? Except the officials, the umpires, and the refs. So, but yeah, it was sad. It was just a shame that this thing happened the way it did because it should have been avoided. But again, once you give him the warning, if Schnall keeps going, eject him. That's on him. But as an umpire, you're always looked at as a guy who needs to diffuse situations. And one thing I've noticed in umpiring, especially the major leagues, I've spent most of my time covering the majors, you have combative umpires. I call it the Joe West syndrome. Joe West was a very combative umpire for years, and it felt like there was a legion of Joe West wannabes that came to Major League Baseball with very thin skin. If you have thin skin, you shouldn't be an umpire. You just shouldn't, because it's not about you. If you got that bully complex where you want to, be able to yell at people and tell them what to do, and you love the authority and you get all tingly, maybe you shouldn't be an umpire. Just saying. All right, also a big story from the weekend is we had an NBA Finals to get into. And last night, a big question mark will hover over this Finals. And it's a shame. We'll get to that next halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you. Ed Bird's here. So's Kale. We're going to 3 on the game. We are cooking the halftime show. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We go till 3 here on the game. Obviously, we'll get back to what happened at the College World Series, the other stuff that actually happened, like, I don't know, LSU winning the national championship. We will get to that. But also, we had an NBA final last night. You had Game 7 with Oklahoma City and Indy. And do me a favor, Ed Bird, let's grab cut 12 real quick. The finishing touches that the Thunder put on winning the NBA title over the Indiana Pacers. Cut 12.
The Thunder have taken the NBA by storm. For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City. The storybook season is complete.
It wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty, but Oklahoma City found a way in Game 7 to take out the Pacers. Defense, third quarter defense, rebounding and grinding won this thing for Oklahoma City. They flipped the whole thing in the third quarter, down by 1 at the half, put together, just sterling defense, forcing a bunch of Indiana turnovers, getting, 18 points off those turnovers in the second half or the third quarter, building a double-digit lead, and then holding on for dear life because Oklahoma City has had a way to go with big leads in fourth quarters. They've done it multiple times this year, and they were trying to hack that sucker up last night too. The last 4 to 5 minutes of that game last night, the Oklahoma City offense was abysmal. Nobody was moving. Nobody was cutting. Nobody was moving the ball. Nobody was moving without the ball. It seemed like Mark Daigneault, the head coach, wasn't even trying to have them run anything. They just get the ball, milk the clock, and have SGA or Williams just kind of chuck something up there with the hope of maybe Chet Holmgren get a putback or Dort to get an offensive rebound. But the good news for Oklahoma City is their defense and their offensive rebounding bailed them out, and the Thunder win the NBA championship. SGA was really good, though, when it came to passing the rock. And that was one of the, not enough people are talking about this to me, was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 12 assists. Because basically Indiana was coming after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander saying, the other dudes can beat us, but friend, you're not beating us. And what worked in Game 6, remember, Gilgeous-Alexander had, I lost track, 75 turnovers in Game 6. Only 1 turnover and 12 assists in Game 7. SGA, the minute there was an open man, SGA would hit him because, again, there was multiple defenders running at him. So he made the Pacers pay by dishing off to his teammates who were converting. To me, that was the biggest difference in this game offensively for Oklahoma City. Then they did finally make some threes in the second half. But they weren't good on offense. They shot 40% from the floor. They shot 27% from three. But their offensive rebounding, they pulled down 13 offensive rebounds. Most of them were key offensive rebounds. Even though in the game they got out-rebounded overall by Indiana. And the turnovers. Indiana's turnovers killed them. Oklahoma City only had 7. Indiana had 21. But this gets to the biggest point of the game. And the biggest point of the game was Tyrese Halliburton has an Achilles injury. The fear is a torn Achilles. No official word yet. But that is going to hover over this game, fair or not. How many turnovers could Indiana have had if their point guard's playing? Look, no offense to T.J. McConnell. McConnell made some shots in the third quarter. He basically kept the Pacers in the game in the third quarter with his shot making. But McConnell also had 7 turnovers because he was asked to play 28 minutes and asked to bring the ball up court and do some things that Tyrese Halliburton would do. But since Halliburton wasn't there, McConnell, Andrew Nebhart, who had a couple of turnovers as well, they were asked to do things that they typically wouldn't be asked to do if Halliburton was on the floor. So to me, we can talk about the points Halliburton didn't score because he wasn't in the game, and Halliburton started on a heater, 9 points in 7 minutes. But to me, it was the ball handling, the decision making, and the running of the offense that you lost since you didn't have Tyrese Halliburton that really killed the Pacers last night. Just really took them out of everything. And yeah, Halliburton with those 9 points in 7 minutes, maybe Halliburton's having one of those games, because when Tyrese Halliburton, when he has one of those contests where he's on, he's smoking, and he's scoring 30 and dishing like 10 assists, typically Indiana wins those games. And he was off to a really good start with 9 points, hit 3 threes. What would have happened if he doesn't get hurt? I don't know. I don't. I think Oklahoma City's a better team, but Thunder were in a game 7. And Indiana hung out for, 2 quarters before everything started to fall apart. So to me, I think it's a legit question. What happens if Tyrese Halliburton's on the court? Just like to me, if Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson don't get hurt, Golden State runs Toronto off the floor in the NBA Finals. But that's a question mark I'll never be able to answer. We can talk about what that first time Cleveland and Golden State played in the finals. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love get hurt. Does Cleveland have a legit shot to beat Golden State if they have those two guys? I don't know if they'll beat them, but they have a heck of a lot better chance. We've seen this happen. Anthony Davis's yearly injury for the Lakers in the playoffs, it feels like. Injuries, we see it more and more in the NBA. I think the Knicks beat the Celtics no matter what, but Jason Tatum blows an Achilles this year in that playoff series. Same thing with Stoudemire with Milwaukee. Blows an Achilles. What happens there? Probably no different, but I think it's a legit question. When you lose high-level players that are really important to your team, I think it's a real question mark. I think you have to throw it out last night. Doesn't take away from what Oklahoma City did. They won the title. You can't put an asterisk next to a championship won if there's an injury, because again, injuries happen. They just do. Again, Toronto is a legit champion. Golden State a legit champion. Oklahoma City a legit champion. But there is, you sit there and go, man, what a shame that Halliburton wasn't healthy, and we wouldn't have to sit here and shrug our shoulders and wonder, what could have happened? But Oklahoma City, again, the better team, but give the Pacers a ton of props for pushing this thing to a Game 7 and scaring the bejesus out of Oklahoma City for half of Game 7 in Oklahoma City. That was something. So a little sidebar, I don't know how much, it seemed like a lot of comments to this. The Oklahoma City Thunder fan base was really, really good to the Pacer fans in the building, but the drunks outside were not so good to the Pacer fans. A lot of threats, a lot of other things going on. Obviously not sober Thunder fans getting to the face of Pacer fans outside the arena. Are we shocked? Of course not. Everybody gets beer muscles. Everybody's a lot tougher. What's the old Travis Tritt song, you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, whatever. But it's a game, man. You won. Here's what kills me about that. You won. You're acting like a jackass, and you won. Go enjoy it. Go run around and, streak in the street and get drunk and kiss people you've never met and all that other good stuff. Like I do in Philly, climb poles, whatever. You won. Well, leave the Pacer fans alone. Let them go to the car and drive home. But I give the Thunder props. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Williams, Holmgren. Holmgren was phenomenal defensively. 5 blocks. He altered shots. He's guarding everybody. Chet Holmgren, he really helped save the Thunder last night on the defensive end of the court. He was really, really good. Is Oklahoma City a dynasty? I will talk about that later. I'll give you thoughts on that. Did we say that about the Celtics last year? Aren't they going to be a dynasty? How good can Milwaukee be with Giannis and those guys? Yeah, we'll get into it. All right, just in case you just woke up, speaking of the NBA, a trade, how big it is, I don't know, but there was one in the NBA. We'll get into it next here on the Halftime Show in the Game. Just in case you just woke up, I don't know if you caught this in all the craziness about the College World Series and the umpire and the NBA Finals, but Kevin Durant is being traded to the Houston Rockets. Yeah. This will be Durant's 5th team. Now, focusing on the trade real quick. Houston will deal Jalen Green, former first pick overall, if my memory serves me. Dylan Brooks, good defender, improved three-point shooter, and massive annoying pain in the butt if you're playing against him. To the point where he goes overboard and gets technicals and he hurts his team, stuff like that. But Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. Now, occasionally a second-round pick pops, right? You'll get a Nikola Jokic, you'll get a Draymond Green. It happens. But most of the time, second-round picks don't really turn into high-level NBA players. The odds are typically against it. Now, sometimes you can go and, draft some 12-year-old Euro and stash them for a few years and things of that nature. But 5 second-round picks, you go, well, it sounds impressive, I guess. But anyway, getting Jalen Green, when Jalen Green's good, he's really good. Problem is sometimes Jalen Green he disappears. You saw him in the playoffs. He had one good game and was terrible besides that. But he's got a lot of talent. Again, Dylan Brooks is the positives on Dylan Brooks, he'll guard you all over the court, off the court, he'll chase you to the bathroom, the parking lot. Dylan Brooks plays defense, and he's become a much better three-point shooter through his career. But he does bring negative where, he kind of like Draymond Green goes overboard, gets technicals, just does stupid stuff. And the number 10 pick, we'll see what Phoenix will do with that 10th pick. But you go, wow. Did I see other guys nowhere near as good as Kevin Durant get traded and teams gave up 4 first-round picks and all sorts of stuff? Yeah, but they were a lot younger. Number one. Number two, Durant really, he kind of hurt his own market by saying, here are the teams I want to go to. And it really hurt the leverage of the Suns, even if the Suns could do it, because, again, Brian Gregory's in charge of the Suns, and who knows if he's any good as a GM or not. And the Suns, ever since Matt Ishbia bought the Suns, they've become kind of like a clown show. But, Durant said, I want to go to Miami, San Antonio, or I want to go to Houston. So it was kind of tough to really build a market of people, putting a bidding war together. But Durant, again, last year was phenomenal. He's shooting 53% from the floor, 43% from three, 84% from the line. Dude is the most efficient scorer I have ever seen in my entire life. And he's still playing at a high level. Matter of fact, he has never had a year in his career he's averaging under 20 points a game. And since his second year in the league, he has never had a season where he's averaged under 25 points a game. For his career, the guy's shooting 50% from the floor, 39% from three, 88% from the line. He is an assassin, even at 37. And when he is motivated properly, Durant can play defense like he did in Golden State. But he is 37 years old. But this is what the doctor ordered for the Rockets. They become really dangerous. What they were missing last year, and the reason they got beat by Golden State in the playoffs in 7, they didn't have a Kevin Durant. They didn't have a dude who could make buckets. They just didn't. They played defense, they rebound, they're tough, all that other stuff. They just didn't have a guy, though, when you needed baskets made that could go out and do it. They got the big in Sengun, who's really good. They got a leader in point guard, Fred VanVleet. They've got a young, athletic wing in Thompson. Also, Tari Eason. He's an interesting player. Jabari Smith, former first-round pick, lottery pick, came off the bench. Steven Adams is your enforcer who, takes a pipe out to the court with him. This makes Houston very dangerous in the West. All of a sudden, they become a real threat to Oklahoma City because now they have a bucket getter in Kevin Durant. And Phoenix, I guess that was the best they could do. We'll hear down the road if there was a better offer out there somewhere, but right now, that's what Phoenix got for Kevin Durant. All right, also, this was interesting. As interesting as, the Travelers Championship could be if you're not really a golf fan or you just care about the majors. So, Keegan Bradley wins this tournament. He won it the second time in 3 years. He won the tournament. And Bradley, his kid was in the stands on the grandstand at the 18th. And so Tommy Fleetwood, who has never won on the PGA Tour, has the lead by a stroke going to 18. Keegan Bradley's kid is in the grandstand going, talking about Fleetwood, he's going to bogey. He's going to bogey. And, of course, Fleetwood bogeys. And while Fleetwood bogeys to go a stroke back, Keegan Bradley knocks down a birdie, and Bradley steals the tournament on the 18th. And Fleetwood, once again, has no W's in his PGA Tour career, while Keegan Bradley comes from behind and gets himself a win. But, there's certain, it's just, look, golf, tennis, they're such from the neck up games, man. You can talk yourself out of something like that. The brain is a powerful, powerful instrument. It can help you and it can crater you. And I wonder how much of Fleetwood losing was Fleetwood's brain. Because you got a lot of time to think between shots. Just saying. But Keegan Bradley won. His kid called it. That Fleetwood guy's got a bogey. One other story really quick, because we're, just in case you just woke up and missed some stuff here on the game. Dwayne Lucas has been training horses, it feels like, for 100 years. Dwayne Lucas is 89 years old. He's been hospitalized for a bit and will not return to training, Churchill Downs announced yesterday. Lucas's family said the 89-year-old has battled a severe infection that has worsened and that he has declined an aggressive treatment plan and instead will return home. The horses have been transferred to the assistant trainer, Sebastian Boss Nicole. Quote, Wayne has built a legacy that will never be matched. Every decision I make, every horse I saddle, I will hear his voice in the back of my mind, says Nicole. This isn't about filling his shoes. No one can. It's about honoring everything he has built. Lucas has won 15 Triple Crown races, second only to Bob Baffert as Bud. Lucas has won a record-tying 20 in the Breeders' Cup. Won the Derby 4 times since '88. Last year was his last Triple Crown victory, seized the Gray in the Preakness. That was his 7th win at Pimlico. Dwayne Lucas, one of the greatest trainers in the history of horse racing, it seems like, he's refused treatment, an aggressive treatment plan, instead will return home because of this issue he has had with a severe infection. So that obviously doesn't sound good, but Dwayne Lucas, what a phenomenal career. Just in case you just woke up here on the game, we'll come back, check our Firehouse sub, text the hour at 803-404-6100. Halftime show. Ed Bird, did Cale at least bring you food? He brought no food. He didn't bring any liquor. No food, no liquor. Obviously, we have to teach Cale about radio, don't we, Ed? Yeah. Cale's here, learning, training, sucking up all the knowledge in the brain of Ed Bird. David Ayer's off this week. Why? Well, those court documents are sealed, Ed. We can't talk about it. But Dave will be back next week. Firehouse sub, text the hour next, 803-404-6100. Halftime show. We go till 3 on the game. All right. Firehouse Up text, the hour 803-404-6100. Real easy, very simple. Tara, you know as good as I do, nothing will be done to Angel Campos. You're right. Nothing will be done. Nothing public. Because, again, that's not the way. And to be fair, we see it around sports, professional sports. Every now and then you'll hear about an umpire or a ref or an official, get penalized or something will happen. Or eventually a guy will be let go. It's real quiet on the down low. But usually things are very rarely get out in public. They just don't. The NBA has come the closest to being the most transparent about their officiating. They have the 2-minute report, and they put that out. And a lot of people say, why don't you do a 48-minute report? But at least the NBA will openly discuss mistakes. But this was more of how you handle a game, right? I mean, yeah, you're going by the rule, and I get it. The rule's the rule. And if you want to go down that road, fine. But I just really believe the good umpires, they don't go that way about these type of situations. They don't want to make it about them. It's about the game. And the more the hothead the coach gets or the manager gets, the more calm the umpire gets. You know that whole thing where the more crazy the person is yelling at you, the calmer you get. That psychological game. Well, umpires should be like that. They should be calm. The coach comes out. We talked about this earlier. We played a cut from Jamie Bradford about how it should be handled, and Jamie was spot on it. You look at the coach, in this instance, Kevin Schnall, and you say, Coach, I'm trying to keep you in the game, so I need you to not say anything else about balls and strikes. Because if you do, I'm going to have to kick you. I'm going to give you the warning because I have to right now. So I'm warning you before I give you the warning. You have to stop and go back to the dugout because right now, by the letter of the rules, I could run you, but I'm not going to. So I want to keep you in the game because now you put the onus on the coach for the coach to zip it, zip it. In the words of the great Dr. Evil, and go back to the dugout. But if he's going to keep going, he's got his warning. He got his official warning. You gave him his unofficial warning, and he still won't stop. Now it's on him. Easy. No problem. But no, nothing's going to happen to Campos because, the NCAA will just hide behind the rule that, that official statement they put out a little bit after the game. But guys like that, and the ironic part is we read the criteria, once again, in case you missed this a few minutes ago, here's the criteria, so to speak, for hiring college baseball umpires. And I'll reread the one part that I find quite interesting. They say College World Series umpires are selected through a multi-stage process that includes evaluations, nominations, and postseason experience. The NCAA Division I Baseball Committee, with the assistance of the NCAA National Coordinator of Baseball Umpires, they look for guys who can handle high-pressure situations. Angel Campos, look like he did a good job of that. Yeah. So that's the interesting part. Here's a guy that, by the way, as an umpire in the majors, had issues with handling high-pressure situations. He once ejected Matt Kemp of the L.A. Dodgers because Kemp was yelling to his teammate, come on, Matt. Come on, let's get a knock. Because earlier there had been some chirping from the Dodger dugout about balls and strikes. So this guy just heard Matt Kemp talk and threw him out of the game. This is the guy the NCAA put into umpire home plate in Game 2 of the College World Series final. Football, nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour. Coming up next, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We got some more rankings for some Gamecocks. We'll get into that next here on the Halftime Show. Oh, we talk a ton of football in the 1 o'clock hour, like always, here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird. Kale's here as we roll till 3 here on the game. All right, big weekend just passed recruiting-wise for Gamecock football. Quarterback target Landon Duckworth was back on campus this past weekend. Why is that big deal? Because Duckworth, it's down to South Carolina, and I believe it's Auburn is where it's at. We know Auburn likes to spend money. They got money to spend. Remember, they used to spend a lot of money under the table. Now they can do it above the table. So you're dealing with a school with a lot of financial resources, so to speak. So we'll see where all that goes. And plus, the new world we're now in, everything's got to pass the clearinghouse, remember? But I don't know. It's an interesting conversation because I don't believe I got to check and see exactly how this goes with the high school players. What we talk about is college players. I think I read somewhere where the high school players it's a separate deal. I don't know if that's true. So we'll see. I got to dig back into that. I've read different things on that. So, but Duckworth, Auburn, chasing Duckworth. Duckworth, if you look at playing time, Jackson Arnold, there's no guarantee Jackson Arnold's going to be a one-and-doner at Auburn and then move on to the NFL. We'll see. And if you're Landon Duckworth, you're looking at the two spots. If Lenore Sellers plays the way everybody thinks he's going to play, he'll go off and be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, and then there will be opportunity at South Carolina or more opportunity to quickly go up the depth chart more than would be at Auburn, because no one's saying Jackson Arnold, if he has a great year, is going to project as a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Now, could he play his way into being a first rounder? He's got a lot of physical ability, I guess. But right now, no one's projecting Jackson Arnold to that point after 1 year. Maybe Arnold has a really good year and comes back to cement himself in a second year at Auburn to play himself into being a possible first-round pick. Maybe. I mean, Arnold was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So we'll see what Landon Duckworth ends up doing. It's going to be interesting to see which direction Duckworth goes. Obviously, he originally had, verbal to South Carolina before reopening his recruitment. Also over the weekend, I thought this story was interesting. 2 offensive linemen, Darius Gray, Desmond Green, neither really talked to the media after their visits because that's just not what they're doing right now. They're trying to keep things kind of close to the vest, so to speak. So they're not being mad or mean about it. They're just, we're just not talking because we just kind of want to handle everything on the down low. Look at Desmond Green. According to the folks at Gamecock Central, Green would challenge anyone in the country for the highest number of visits to Columbia in this cycle. Very familiar with Shane, the culture at South Carolina. Staff's familiar with him. And right now, the Gators have been pushing hard on Desmond Green. Substantial NIL deal could be on the table. So obviously, there's the question we're just answering about high school players. So we go back to Landon Duckworth. Could Auburn drop a bigger NIL deal? Or will they? Than South Carolina would. Now, again, Shane Beamer. Shane's like, if you're just chasing money, dude, and that's all you care about, well, good talking with you. Nice talk. So Florida, according to Gamecock Central, might be willing to put a substantial NIL deal together for Desmond Green. The Gators have pushed hard in several weeks, but industry sources indicate Florida may be willing to continue to push harder. Now, Columbia obviously is closer to Green's home. That could play a role moving forward as well. Green, again, declining any kind of post-visit interviews at this point. Now, Gray, he was like the last prospect to wrap up his official visits on Sunday, according to Gamecock Central. He rolled back to Virginia. No other program has drawn more campus visits for Gray than South Carolina. Gamecocks have been the leader at multiple points in his recruitment. For Gray, 2 other schools have stepped up, LSU and Tennessee. Again, there's a lot of dough sitting around there for NIL. at LSU and Tennessee. But we talk about this all the time. This is who you're going to be competing with if you want high-level recruits. You're competing with all these folks. That's just reality. A lot of excellent programs want really good players. I know it's a shocker. I know. Sit down for a second and let that just kind of flow over you. The really, really good programs want really, really good players. So you're going to compete with the LSUs and the Tennessees and the Floridas and all these other programs, especially in the SEC, where obviously you're always recruiting. It's dog eat dog. A lot of stuff goes on in the recruiting world in the SEC. That's just two interesting little stories with two offensive linemen. And obviously, we've seen it here with South Carolina. You can never, ever, 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 ever have too many offensive linemen. Ever. Ever. One other one, reclassified wide receiver Sequel Patterson. USC will be the only official visit he's taken, and he told Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central on Sunday he's looking to announce a choice in the next couple of weeks. So there's a little recruiting stuff from the weekend for South Carolina. As we talk, nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the Game Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird manning the controls. Kale's here learning how to man the controls as we cook this thing till 3 o'clock. All right, for South Carolina, just looking at some of the love that the Gamecocks have been getting recently. Picked number 6 in the SEC by Athlon Sports, ahead of like Tennessee and Florida and some others. It's interesting, Florida's been picked like 10th in the SEC by Athlon Sports. Florida has been picked a notch ahead of South Carolina. The standings that Athlon Sports had put together preseason SEC, Texas first, no surprise. Georgia second, no surprise. LSU third, Bama fourth, Florida fifth. Coming off a nice run at the end of the year. They got some talent coming back, bringing in some talent. So Athlon Sports thinks Florida could finish fifth. South Carolina then at sixth, ahead of Ole Miss at 7, A&M at 8, Oklahoma at 9, Tennessee at 10, Auburn 11, Missouri 12. How about that? At the bottom is Mississippi State, to the shock of no one. They're still rebuilding under Jeff Lebby. Kentucky at 15. Now, the buyout for Mark Stoops is just ridiculous. So that's going to save Mark Stoops. Or Stoops takes off to another gig. But if Kentucky finishes 15th, wow. Mark Stoops will be carrying a fire hydrant around to take the fire out of his pants because his seat will be so hot at Kentucky. 14, Vandy. 13 is Arkansas. If that does happen, I got a bad feeling my buddy Uncle Sam will lose his gig. Remember, Sam Pittman barely held on because he went to a bowl game this past year. Folks in Arkansas want to win big. They don't want 6 wins. They don't want to be Mark Stoops in Kentucky. So, if this is the case, I have a bad feeling that Uncle Sam will be coaching his last year at Arkansas. And to see Missouri sitting at 12, Tennessee at 10, and Ole Miss at 7 is interesting. I think with Tennessee, it's just a quarterback. It's, a lot of folks who do these preseason, predictions and prognostications, they're not down with Joey Aguilar. They think there's been a drop-off and there's a question mark at the quarterback position at Tennessee, and there might be. But, Aguilar was solid at Appalachian State at times. Put up some numbers. And I just feel like we're acting like Nico was phenomenal last year. He wasn't. He got worse as the season went along at Tennessee. And that's a very quarterback-friendly offense. So maybe, Aguilar or whoever they put in that spot at quarterback, maybe he's just going to be a point guard, which to me, that's pretty good in the Tennessee offense. All you're doing is just dropping back. Oh, that guy's open. I'm going to give him the ball and watch him run a lot. Don't try to do too much. Hendon Hooker just got the ball out quick to playmakers and was very accurate and excelled in that offense. So I think the idea that, maybe just the way it was so clunky with Nico, And then you bring in Aguilar and, And look, Aguilar does not have the natural ability or arm talent that Nico does, but maybe Aguilar will be good at just running the offense. We'll see. But Tennessee's sitting at 10 because of the quarterback situation, no doubt. No doubt. And Ole Miss didn't kill it in the portal like they've done in previous years. But they still have a talented crew, even though they lost a lot, obviously. But South Carolina's sitting at 6 in the Athlon Sports rankings. Dylan Stewart got love from Athlon Sports. Again, not a shocker. Stewart was picked first team preseason All-American by Athlon. And Stewart, of course, one of the best pass rushers in America as a freshman. And this year, I'm guessing double team, quadruple team. I'm guessing the entire offensive line is going to run at Dylan Stewart. But Stewart has been picked first team preseason on the edge. Other folks picked on the first team, Clemson edge T.J. Parker and tackle Peter Woods and Texas edge Colin Simmons, another freshman. If it wasn't for Dylan Stewart, Colin Simmons would have been looked at as the best freshman edge rusher in the country last year. But Simmons was number 2 behind Dylan Stewart. Now, Lenore Sellers did not make this team, but interesting enough, the guy that did make first team All-American at quarterback for Athlon Sports, Arch Manning. Yeah. But Terry hardly played last year. His last name's Manning. If his last name was Ford or Bird, it'd be different. His last name's Manning. And look, to be fair, he's got physical gifts. Yes, he's a dual threat guy. When he did play, he was not wow, but he was good. But a guy that's played that little has been picked preseason first team All-American. It just makes me laugh. So obviously, Lenore Sellers did not reach that spot. But the good news is the South Carolina quarterback room got love. It was picked the number 4 quarterback unit overall in the country. Behind, of course, Texas and Clemson and LSU. And look, you can sit there and say, okay, you want to, again, opinion, objectivity, whatever. If you want to put like Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier ahead of Lenore Sellers for whatever your reasons, maybe you think they're more developed as passers than Sellers at this point, okay, fine. But the Arch Manning thing just makes me laugh. Now, there are people who think Arch Manning is going to be unbelievable this year. We'll see. Preseason first team All-American. But yeah, South Carolina number 4 quarterback room in the country behind Texas, Clemson, and LSU. And of course, it's not just Lenore Sellers, but it's also Luke Doty, Aaron Nolan, Cutter Woods. People forget something. Aaron Nolan was a high 4-star recruit coming out of high school before he went to Ohio State. Even though isn't this why, look, you try to take too much from spring games. You just don't. But you watch that spring game, Aaron Nolan had some issues when Cutter Woods looked really good. And Cutter Woods is like a, high 3-star? But Aaron Nolan was looked at very fondly coming out of high school before he landed at Ohio State. So anyway, here's some Athlon Sports stuff with their preseason rankings. We talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. This Thursday, we're hanging at the Nest. Myself, Tyler Head. We will be there rolling the noon to 3 show, talking about all the great, cool things they do at the Nest. Again, if you want to redo some stuff in the home, that's the place to go to. You call, you make an appointment, you come in. The showroom's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I've been begging them to let me live there. So far, they won't let me. So we'll be there Thursday, noon to 3 with the halftime show. All right, we do nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Hey, the Pac-12 isn't dead after all. We'll give you some details next here on the halftime show on the game. All right, halftime show. We yip a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, always sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. On the game, Terry Ford, Ed Berg. Kale just hit buttons, and nothing exploded. Nothing caught on fire yet. So, step one for Kale. Nice work. Nice work. All right, so as we've been yapping football like we always do here in the 1 o'clock hour, again, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. So the Pac-12, remember, the Pac-12 was the two-pack there for a little bit with Oregon State and Washington State. Now they brought in some other schools like a Boise State and a few others from the Mountain West, and they're trying to piece together a league because Oregon State and Washington State are trying to survive. Boise State's trying to up their profile. But what really ups your profile today, let's just be real, is money. The only way your profile is jacked up is if you can get TV dough. Remember, that's how the Pac-12 fell apart, right? Lack of a TV deal. And all the schools started leaving because the powers that be in the Pac-12 just totally foobarred it, right? Well, now CBS and the Pac-12 are renewing their relationship. I don't know. There's no word. I haven't seen it how much money that CBS wants to throw the Pac-12. I mean, there's a window for success there, right? You got that late night window, the Pacific time zone. And if you're smart, you're the Pac-12, maybe you take some of the strategy like the MAC. Maction, baby. The MAC will play at 2 in the morning on a Wednesday. They don't care. They just want to be on TV. It'll be interesting to see if the Pac-12 is going to do that with CBS and CBS Sports Network. Maybe they set a deal where, okay, they're on CBS in a certain window on Saturday, but they can be on CBS Sports Network if they want to expand and start playing different days of the week. And, however you got to get your TV deal. If you're the Pac-12, that's what you're doing. You're trying to survive. You're trying to save yourself. And the fact that CBS is going to circle back around, maybe that's part of this whole thing, is that you're going to get content in multiple days of the week from these Pac-12 teams. I don't know. But right now, in case you missed it, it's Washington State and Oregon State, Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Jose State, Utah State. Gonzaga's playing basketball. So the Pac-12 right now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 football teams and 9 when it comes to basketball because Gonzaga is in. So that's the latest there. And remember, they're trying to poach some others, but teams decide to stay put. So eventually, I'm guessing the Pac-12 will get to 12, especially depending on the TV deal, what they'll get from CBS. So we'll see. Story has to be updated. There's still not a lot of details, but they're going to expand a partnership through 2031. I just found the CBS Sports. Give me a little more detail here. This just came out a little while ago, I think. Yep, just came out a little bit ago. All right, CBS Sports and the Pac-12 announced today an extension of their current relationship to make the network the New Look League's primary long-term media rights partner. Deal will run through 2031. Will include the Pac-12 championship game in football, Pac-12 tournament title game in men's basketball, each airing I forgot about this platform. Paramount Plus. So they will air the Pac-12 tournament title game in men's basketball each season on CBS on Paramount Plus. CBS and Paramount Plus will air a minimum of 3 regular season football. And, okay, my screen just jumped. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, let me get back to this. Where's it at? They will, where is that? I hate when the screen jumps. All right, here it is. CBS and Paramount Plus will air a minimum of 3 regular season football games and men's basketball games each week with additional games from both sports airing on CBS Sports Network. Their CBS Sports Network. So here, that's the deal. CBS Sports Network, CBS, and the streaming platform Paramount Plus. Now, I don't see how much money this is going to be. Don't see anything here for that. but the Pac-12 has a media rights deal now, and I'm sure a key to this was the Pac-12 being open to going to Paramount Plus and also CBS Sports Network. That way you get more of your content out. So we'll see where it goes. But that's the latest there. So Pac-12 trying to survive. Will they ever be a power league? Probably not. Most likely not. Again, if I'm a gambling man, I would say no. But the deal has been extended with CBS Sports and the Pac-12. Another interesting little tidbit, little nugget, as we're getting ready for the football season. Two ESPN draft guys, Matt Miller and Jordan Reed, revealed who they expect to be the top 5 quarterback prospects in the 2026 draft. Now, Reed and Miller both have been scouts. And here's where they have their top 5. For Matt Miller, he has Cade Klubnik, number 1 from Clemson. Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, number 2. Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. A lot of people like Fernando Mendoza. He was good at Cal last year. And now he's going to go to Indiana running a very quarterback-friendly offense. That's the thought. Miller has Lenore Sellers ranked 4th and Drew Aller 5th. Jordan Reed also has Cade Klubnik number 1, but he has a guy named Lenore Sellers at number 2. Then Garrett Nussmeier at 3, Drew Aller at 4, and Fernando Mendoza at 5. So Lenore Sellers and Cade Klubnik both in the top 5. All 5 of these quarterbacks are just kind of shuffled a little bit. But Klubnik is number 1 on both lists. Garrett Nussmeier is interesting. I mean, I think Garrett Nussmeier showed a lot of ability to spin it. Now, is he the most mobile dude in the world? No, not really. Did he take maybe a few too many sacks? Yeah, probably. But Nussmeier, I mean, he threw the rock all over the field. He's a big guy, and he can make every NFL throw. Mendoza's very interesting. Again, he's 6'5", 225. Looks like a quarterback. Gets off the bus looking like a quarterback. Numbers were good. Threw for over 3,000 yards, 68% of his passes, 16 touchdowns. But Mendoza, and part of this was offensive line and receivers, and Mendoza himself. Mendoza, no quarterback was sacked more than Fernando Mendoza last year. Now, when you're sacked that much, yes, your offensive line obviously stinks. 2, maybe your receivers aren't getting open and you're holding the ball too long. 3, you're holding the ball too long because you're not recognizing coverages or that internal clock in your head is broken and needs to be fixed because you're just trying to do too much. Look, live for the next play. Anyway, that's the thing with Mendoza. And with Drew Aller last year finally started looking like a starting quarterback. Got a new offense. They did some things, had some players with some creative type talent, and Drew Aller made the most of it and had an excellent year. And then the honorable mention guy was John Mateer at Oklahoma. Mateer was excellent at Washington State. He could throw it, he can run it, but can he do it in the SEC? That'll be the big question mark for Mateer. So there are some rankings from ESPN on quarterbacks coming into the season. Of course, you got 1, 2, 3 of these guys are from the SEC. I know, stunning. We talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. Up next, could the Kansas City Chiefs move? Could they? We'll talk about that next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. We're talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Pro Football Talk put out their, post-minicamp ratings for teams. I don't really care much about that. I just want to regain my jumping off point. They have the Carolina Panthers sitting at 25, which is like, wow, that's high compared to what they've been. I mean, there's 32 teams in the NFL. I think last year the Panthers were 35th. Now up to 25, ahead of teams like the Titans, the Raiders, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Giants, the Saints, and the Browns. Think about that for a minute. All those teams are looked at worse than the Panthers. And some of those teams are legit in trouble. How about the Jags? Here's a team a couple years ago was a playoff squad, and it totally fell apart under Doug Peterson. Now they moved on. Hiring, how do I put this in a nice way? Because, I'm a kinder, gentler man in my old age. You go out and get Liam Cohen. And basically, you run off your GM, which I'm not saying that was a bad thing, because I didn't think the previous GM was very good. But anyway, you do everything to go get Liam Cohen. A guy who, he's been a real offensive coordinator in the NFL for 2 years. One was under Sean McVay, so that meant Liam Cohen wasn't really the offensive coordinator. Sean McVay said, I just drew up the game plan for this week. Take my clothes to the dry cleaners, and on your way back, pick me up a really good turkey wrap from my favorite deli. So Liam Cohen last year took over in Tampa as the offensive coordinator. His first year in the NFL really being an offensive coordinator. It's like I said, under Sean McVay, you're not the offensive coordinator. And to be fair, the dude he took over for in Tampa, Dave Canales, got the head coaching gig with the Panthers, and we'll get to them in a minute. So Canales had really built that offense. And there was talent on the offensive side of the ball in Tampa. And to Liam Cohen's credit, he came in and didn't screw it up. Did a nice job. Bucks made the playoffs in the worst division maybe in the history of football. And so Cohen parlayed that into the Jacksonville gig. Now, again, the Jags hire a guy who has zero head coaching experience, very little offensive coordinator experience. But could it work out? Sure. We've said this many times. You never truly know if a guy's going to be a good head coach until he becomes a head coach. I thought it was kind of a curious hire. It was kind of a head-scratcher to me. I wouldn't have hired Liam Cohen, but we'll see where that goes. But think about the Jags. A couple years ago, a playoff-type squad, now sitting 28th behind the Panthers. The Panthers, every team has this little, capsule descriptor. There might be a sentence next to them, like the Jags. Can Trevor Lawrence get back to what once looked like, it says, can Trevor Lawrence get back to what it once looked like he was becoming? For the Panthers, it's simple. It says this. It's a huge year for Bryce Young. Now, the last 2 seasons, the Panthers have brought in wide receiver help. Seems like they've tried to improve the offensive line. You've got Dave Canales, much better offensive system for Young. Canales seems like he believes in Young, which was the exact opposite of Frank Reich, who didn't even want Bryce Young, we hear. So Bryce Young, once he came back from being benched in 2024, looked like a different quarterback. Looked much more confident, looked like he was much more command, played much better, was more accurate, more decisive. There's a lot of positives to Bryce Young's game after he came back from being benched for Andy Dalton. Now, Young has to build on it. And if you're Dave Canales, unless Bryce Young craters, unless Bryce Young just becomes unplayable, you keep playing Bryce Young this year. This is the year you go, Bryce, all 16, babe. I believe in you. Let's go do this thing. We've gotten you talent at wide receiver. We've added some other pieces. We've tried to, make the offensive line not suck. Let's go get him. Let's go get him for 17. Because you're at that third year with Bryce Young, now you got to start making decisions on his rookie contract. What are you going to do? You're going to offer the extension. You're not going to offer the extension. You're going to let it play out a little bit more to see where that goes. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it bites you in the backside. So this is a big year for Bryce Young in a lot of ways with the Carolina Panthers. Look, I've said this before. I think Bryce Young will be a good NFL quarterback. I do. Guys his size, I mean, maybe not as light as Bryce Young is, but, you know, his height is not an issue. He can make all the throws. I just think you got to put him in an offense that plays to his skill set. And you know what you got to do? Hug him. Believe in him. Give him a little, like, you know, headlock noogie. He's set up for success. It seems like they're trying to set him up for success in Carolina, but I agree with Pro Football Talk. This is a huge year for Bryce Young. All right, so in Kansas City, something very interesting is going on. The Chiefs supposedly have a June 30th deadline for accepting an offer from the state of Kansas to help pay for a new dome stadium right across the border. Now, there has been, from Mayor Quentin Lucas, some hope that the Chiefs will stay put in Kansas City, Missouri, with a $1.15 billion renovation of Arrowhead Stadium. Quote from the mayor, "I've had optimism all the time, and I think there's more and more reason for that. I said last summer that I believe we'd have a compelling Missouri state offer. We've gotten to that." So your choice is renovate Arrowhead at $1.15 billion or accept the offer for a dome stadium across the border into Kansas. It's not that far from Kansas City. But we'll see where this thing goes. It's very interesting. Because Kansas City, I mean, the Chiefs have been in the city of Kansas City since 1962. And do I like this stuff where, I've said this a million times, do I like the idea that billionaires hold cities hostage to get their money to build stadiums or renovate stadiums for them? When these guys, I mean, let's face it, they use 50s for toilet paper in one of their 7 bathrooms in their luxurious estate mansion in their gated community. Of course I don't like it. I don't like it, especially when they're not putting in any money. But as much as I'm not a huge fan of the fellow that owns the LA Rams, at least he built a stadium with his money. Screwed over the city of St. Louis, but hey, you know, at least he did it with his own money. But I've never been a big fan of, you know, hey, either give us a lot of money or we're going to threaten to move. And the sad thing is, if you don't play the game, if you don't renovate your stadium or build a new stadium, we've seen teams move because of it. That's a huge thing. So you are being held hostage to make sure you have a beautiful, shiny, state-of-the-art, really expensive stadium that an NFL owner has 15 different revenue streams that he can choose from. It's just reality. So we'll see what happens in Kansas City. Will the Chiefs take that offer of $1.15 billion to renovate, or will they jump across the border to the state of Kansas for a cool dome stadium? Well, we'll see. All right, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour coming up 803-404-6100. Don't forget now, you can check out our Game On Demand podcasting, audio and video. It's sponsored by Modern Exterminating. You can go to our YouTube channel, and whenever you feel like it, you can watch all the shows. Or you can go to 1075thegame.com. You can go to our show pages and click on the audio if you just want to do the audio podcasting. We got video podcasting, audio podcasting, both sponsored by Modern Exterminating. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour is next here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, Kale's here. We're going till 3 on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100 here on the Halftime Show. All right. Texter says, you went back to those preseason rankings. I guess the ones we did with Athlon. The Florida Gators 5th? Seriously? Did anybody look at their schedule? Yeah, look, there's a lot of love for Billy Napier's Gators. A lot of people really like their young talent, the way they played going down the stretch. I don't know. The schedule is tough, man. It's just last year's schedule, remember? And last year's schedule was a bear. Everybody thought last year's schedule was going to get Billy Napier fired. And look, to Billy Napier and that team's credit, they weren't as bad as everybody thought they were going to be. I mean, they were earlier in the year, but once DJ Lagway settled in at quarterback, they rolled a 3-game win streak. Remember, Lagway got that vote of confidence from Scott Strickland, and then Florida went out and got curb stomped by Texas, 49-17. I was like, ooh. That was 2 straight losses to Georgia and Texas, 2 top 5 teams, by a combined score of 83-37. Ow. But then Florida bounced back. They beat LSU at home. They beat Ole Miss at home. And then, of course, they thumped Florida State like everybody did last year. And all of a sudden, you're a 7-5 team. So people they are believing in Florida, believe in Lagway, the talent that the Gators will have, and they'll take the next step. Now, that's all well and good, but 2025 schedule, I mean, you still have, you got to go to LSU, you got to go to Miami, you got to go to A&M, you got to go to Ole Miss. Oh, good luck. Coming to your dojo, you have Tennessee, you got Georgia, neutral site game, obviously, the cocktail party. You've got Texas at home, and you've got the always difficult Long Island University. Anyway. I used to like a Long Island iced tea. Remember those, Ed Bird? Yeah. I got a story that involves a Long Island iced tea and a girl named Rachel I can't tell on the radio. Anyway. All right. So, I mean, it's just, you get Long Island University and you get South Florida to start the year. But after that, man, besides Mississippi State and Kentucky, and the Kentucky game's in Lexington, you got yourself a schedule. You really do. And if you can walk out of that thing with another, and I was going to say with another 7 or 8 wins, but here's the reality. Florida Gator fans don't want 7 or 8 wins. Last year, Billy Napier kind of got, he got a reprieve from the warden, so to speak, because just no one thought Florida would go 7-5. Everybody believed Florida have a losing record and Billy Napier would have been run out of town. But Florida did win 7 and finished the year on a 3-game winning streak. And that's all well and good, but another 7-win season is not going to make the folks in Gainesville happy. They don't want to sit around and win 7 games and go to the Pinstripe Bowl. That's not what they're into. So we'll see. It's again, just like last year, Florida's schedule's crazy. They'll be up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ranked teams. Because remember, you got to throw Miami in there. And Florida State can't be as bad as they were last year. Can they? Can they? I mean, no, they can't, of course. But yeah, so to the texter's point, putting Florida 5th in the SEC is a kind of a large leap when you look at that schedule. And you're banking on evidence you saw from that 3-game win streak to end the season, regular season win streak, that's the building of something at the Swamp. Anyway, thank you for the text, 803-404-6100. We greatly appreciate it. Thursday, noon to 3, we'll be hanging at the Nest on Gadsden in the Vista. A lot of cool stuff we'll be doing. Come check out the greatest showroom in the history of showrooms at the Nest. We'll talk more about that, but Tyler and I will be there noon to 3 on Thursday here on the Game Appreciate you hanging out with us, whether it's Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Game TV, Game app. However you're checking us out, thanks. We'll get what's trending at 2. An update on Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles. We'll get to that next here on The Game.
This could be 2 and the game. Dickinson, Milam, and that's it. Tiger Town is Title Town again as the boys bring the 8th World Series title back to the Bayou.
All right, so that was the final out, a double play to end the College World Series. And LSU wins their 8th championship. But no one's really talking about that. Not really been the big topic of conversation. No one's talking about, just how good Kate Anderson was in game 1 and how phenomenal that 1-0 game was on Saturday. No one's talking about that. Jay Johnson getting his second world championship, national championship. And we'll hear from Jay Johnson in a minute. No one's talking about that stuff. Here's what they're talking about. Kevin Schnall getting ejected. Let's get cut 3 there, Cade, real quick.
Oh, my goodness. He just threw Kevin Schnall out of the game. Wow. In the bottom of the first inning, the home plate umpire throws Kevin Schnall out of this game, and down goes an umpire who had come in to get in the middle of things. And I believe, guys, this had to do what happened at the end of the top of the first with the third base coach for LSU. This seemed to stem from the first base coach. And then Schnall remarkably gets thrown out of the game. A College World Series game 2 in the bottom of the first.
Well, and I didn't even see that building, guys. Like, it's one pitch, and next thing you know, Schnall's out of the dugout, and Angel Campos had clearly heard enough.
Yeah, Angel Campos. That's where we're at. We're at this whole dust-up between Schnall and Campos, the home plate umpire. And like we talked about in the opening riff of the show, look, man, I get by the letter of the law, you can't, argue balls and strikes. I get it. I do. Schnall talked about how he was being shushed by another grown man. It's how you handle things, right? It's how you tell people things. It's how you handle situations. That's where things go one way or the other, right? The fork in the road, you can handle a situation one way and it goes fine, another way and everybody's getting arrested. And home plate umpire Angel Campos, to me, it's the letter of the law. You come out and say to the home plate umpire, you have so far missed 3 pitches. Now, should Schnall have done that? No. He shouldn't have. Absolutely not. You just, I get it. Heat of the moment, heat of the game, all that stuff, I understand. But if you're Campos, you know what's at stake here. You know that Coastal Carolina's down 1-0. You know there's a ton of intensity and testosterone flying around. It's up to you to give Schnall a chance to chill and go back into the dugout. And Campos made it worse. Then you got the first base umpire. I don't know what that goober was doing. He's running in here like he was the bouncer at a nightclub. He comes running in, trips on Campos's foot, and he's embarrassed, and he gets up, and he automatically says, 2-game suspension because somebody bumped into me. No, you bumped into the other umpire's foot, Goov. Nice work. Honestly, it was almost a bad Saturday Night Live skit. But once again, Campos could have handled it different. And then it's on the Coastal head coach to chill it out and go back to the dugout. Because once you give him his opportunity, when you go up to him and say, Coach, I need you to go sit back down because I'm trying to keep you in the game. You need to stop arguing balls and strikes. Go sit down, coach your team. I'm going to give you a warning right now. And if you keep going, I'm going to run you. But I don't want to run you. I'm trying to keep you in the game. But if Schnall keeps going, then you have no choice. You have warned him. You have, given him the public warning, the private warning. And if he still won't get it straightened out, then you kick him. It was just bad all the way around, man. Just bad. So what it does is it pretty much pushes aside the fact that LSU won the College World Series. 6 straight SEC team, I do believe. It's never happened before. One conference winning that many in a row. Let's get cut 7, the winning coach there, Cale. Cut 7, Jay Johnson, the LSU head coach, winning his 2nd national championship with the Tigers.
I'm just so proud. This is a team. Like, our whole motto for the year was toughen together, and that's what they did from August 26th till now. And just incredibly proud. It's only 12 returning players. It's 10 players from the transfer portal. It's 2 JC players and 10 freshmen. And that collection of talent not just became a team, but it became a family.
You know, Johnson, again, you know, like everybody, you're piecing together rosters year by year for the most part. But look, LSU's got talent. They got guys who are going to be drafted. Cade Anderson, like we said, could be the first pitcher off the board, first lefty off the board in the MLB draft, and Anderson was phenomenal. He was most valuable player, most outstanding player at the College World Series. That 1-0 gem that Anderson threw was unreal. So LSU's got players. They got talent, obviously. They've been really good all year. But it's very interesting. Remember, Arkansas Little Rock got them in the regional, a game. And then LSU had to play Arkansas Little Rock again. I think Arkansas Little Rock took the lead early in that game, and LSU smacked them. But after that, the Arkansas game, Arkansas had a chance to force an extra game with LSU, and Arkansas went in the 9th inning. So LSU is also, you know, they've had some moments, but they got through them, whether it's because of what they did or the other team didn't do. But LSU ends up dogpiling and winning the College World Series. And look, the whole thing with Coach Schnall should not take away how good Coastal was this year. The long winning streak, playing for the national championship. It was a phenomenal year. It just was. And this whole thing with the umpire, just, you know. And the other part of it, and we said this also in the noon hour, this is not just with this incident, but in general, the lack of accountability by umpires, referees, officials, you know, at least be able to, with a pool reporter, go in to the umpire locker room and ask Campos a couple of questions. Why did he go so aggressive? Was it just the fact, look, that's the rule, and I'm just following the rule? Dude came out and said, I missed 3 pitches. See you, bye. Have a good life. Or is there more to it? We don't know. But you don't make anyone accountable. And do I think Campos had a quick trigger? Yes. I understand that, you know, Kevin Schnall was questioning balls and strikes, which is a legit reason to throw somebody out of the game. I get it. I just think you give that guy a chance because of the situation and the game and how important it is to college baseball. You give this guy a chance to chill. But Campos said, nope, that's the rule. See you, bub. I just think that separates, like I've said before, that separates good and great umpiring. Great umpires don't do that. They give the coach or the manager every opportunity to get it out of his system and go sit back down. But we have a lot of combative umpires today. They make it about themselves and their authority, to use the words of the great Cartman. And that's just, to me, and that goes back to umpiring as well. The people you're hiring, you shouldn't be hiring combative guys. And the NCAA shouldn't put a guy who was combative when he was a major league umpire in this situation to be umpiring the most important game of the season. So there's a lot to go around here, just saying. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Tyrese Halliburton, to the shock of no one, has a torn Achilles tendon. Right now, Halliburton and his crew are looking at, and the Pacers, are looking at different surgical options. Look, it's interesting that, you know, how far we've come with medicine and science and technology. I mean, you know, Adrian Peterson, he did his own ACL surgery on the sideline and could come right back in a game. The ACL, you come back quicker and quicker and quicker, right? Achilles is still a problem. The Achilles, even in today's world of modern medical marvels, the Achilles can be a problem. And we'll see how long it takes. Tyrese Halliburton he could not play at all next year. We'll see. Awful timing to blow your Achilles. Jason Tatum of the Celtics might not play at all next year. Remember, his Achilles went in the playoffs against the Knicks. So did Damian Lillard. His Achilles went in the playoffs as well. So, a lot of times when you tear it late in the year, you won't come back the next season. And if you do, it'll be late. But Tyrese Halliburton, to the shock really of no one, we've been seeing enough of these. We saw the Kevin Durant Achilles in the NBA Finals against Toronto. It's almost like when you know a guy's got the strained calf, right? It starts with the strained calf. And you come back from the strained calf, and sometimes, if not, maybe even more than sometimes, it feels like these days, that leads to the Achilles tendon tear. So, and the Achilles used to be like an old guy injury. Like old dudes used to blow their Achilles. Now you're getting younger and younger players with these Achilles tendon issues. But Tyrese Halliburton, it's official now, a torn Achilles tendon, and he is out. And if you didn't hear it, this is the play-by-play last night of Halliburton. It's a shame. Halliburton was 3 for 3 from three-point range. He was on a heater. And when Halliburton gets cooking like that and he starts scoring and starts hunting his shot to go with his playmaking ability, the Indiana offense goes to another level. Now, if Halliburton doesn't blow his Achilles, do the Pacers win Game 7? I don't know. But I know that Halliburton did get hurt, and Oklahoma City won the championship. Here is Halliburton's injury. Play it there. Cut 8, Kale.
Kicks it out. Toppin. Good contest from Dort. Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt. Here comes SGA the other way. Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain. So emotional.
Yeah, I mean, Halliburton obviously knew something bad just happened. And, he's on the court, he's down, he's not getting up. And most people who have seen this, they go like this, yeah, that's an Achilles. That's not good. So we'll see where it goes moving forward. Tyrese Halliburton, it's official now with the torn Achilles tendon. Again, go back to Oklahoma City, winning the championship. And look, this happened last year after the Celtics won. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are young. They're young stars. Look at the supporting cast in Boston. They're all under contract. This is a no-brainer. Celtics will repeat. They'll be the new dynasty. Here come the Celtics again. How long did that last? Yeah. So we're hearing the same thing about Oklahoma City. First of all, ready for this? The Thunder, SGA's 27. Williams is 24. Jalen Williams. Chet Holmgren's 23. Every player from this year's team is under contract for next year. No key free agents. And you ready for this? In the upcoming years, Oklahoma City has 13 first-round picks. You're like, it's no brainer, Tara. They're set to win the title for the next 10 years in a row. We'll see. We shall see. But they are set up for success like nobody's business. They really are. But do I think they'll be a dynasty? I don't know. The NBA is trying to run out dynasties. They've added this thing, I won't bore you with the economics of it. The second apron in the NBA has been set up like, it's almost like the cap's bodyguard to stop teams from blatantly just going over the cap into the luxury tax and whatever. The second apron has been brought in to really penalize teams. And what it's doing is taking away building these superstar squads we've seen that, more times don't work than do. Like Golden State did when they brought in Kevin Durant, or how Miami built that deal with LeBron and Chris Bosh to go with Dwayne Wade, or LeBron in Cleveland with Kyrie and Kevin Love. And we've seen this happening in the NBA ever since LeBron, the decision, let's build a super team. But when you try it like they did in Phoenix, or they did with the Knicks back in the day, just because you put three superstars together doesn't mean it's going to work. Just doesn't. All right. What does work anymore? We'll get to that next. It was a big trade in the NBA. It's a halftime show. What's trending at 2 on the game? I was trending at 2. Obviously, we talked about the NBA Finals last night, where Oklahoma City wins Game 7 at home, but Tyrese Halliburton ruptures his Achilles in the first quarter. And there will be a question mark over, okay, what would have happened if Halliburton doesn't get hurt? We don't know. We obviously never will. All right, also in the NBA, a big trade happened. Kevin Durant gets traded to Houston. In return, Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, this year's first-round pick, which is number 10 overall, and 5 second-round picks all end up going to Phoenix. Look, Houston needed a guy like Durant. They needed a dude who could score. Who could be a number one option, who would get buckets when you need them, all that stuff. They need that guy. And they got him. And Durant's still playing at a high level. But then you sit back and say, okay, what does it take to win the NBA championship now? What do you need to do? That whole, just go a bunch of superstars, that's over. We just talked about it. Oklahoma City, yes, they have a high-level player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 2 young guys with a ton of upside who have moments where they're excellent in Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. And they have depth. Because when they go to the bench, sometimes the bench widens the lead. It's a young team built through the trade of Paul George to the Clippers for SGA and then some shrewd drafting by Sam Presti. Boston built through the draft with Tatum and with Brown, traded for Porzingis, made some other deals, combining with what they did through the draft. Denver, again, Nikola Jokic, arguably the best offensive player in the NBA, drafted in the second round. That team built through the draft as well, adding Aaron Gordon in a trade. You're getting where we're going here. Golden State, that was the last championship for the dynasty. That was built through the draft. And then obviously adding Kevin Durant. The Bucks, drafting and trading. The Sixers did the process, remember? Tanking and tanking and tanking. I've said this before, tanking is easy. Getting all those draft picks, not difficult. If you know how to work the chessboard, you can get a lot of draft picks. Here's the problem. Drafting the right guys. The Sixers passed on Giannis Antetokounmpo twice. The reason I bring that up because Giannis and the Bucks in 2021, they won the NBA championship through the draft and shrewd trading. If you look at the last, even the Warriors built through the draft. The idea is put together a super team. Let's just go get free agents and we'll get all these superstars together. Hasn't worked in a long time, to be fair. If you want to say, well, the Lakers, they got LeBron, they got AD, and they won the bubble championship. Okay, yeah. Look, I'm not going to say the bubble championships aren't real, but weren't they weird? I mean, remember the NBA guys all stayed in the same hotel or something, or they all stayed at the same, YMCA? I don't know. Baseball played, 60 games? College football, the SEC only played the SEC. The Big Ten played 3.5 games. It was all kooky. The whole thing was kooky. But you see the NBA now, it's you draft and you make shrewd trades. You build a team, you get depth because you can't just add 3 superstars and go out there and win a championship anymore. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. So the Durant trade, Houston needed that type of offensive firepower to go with the rest of their squad. But the Rockets weren't assembling a super team. They've got young talent in place. They needed a dude, and they got a dude. We'll see if it works. So anyway, Kevin Durant. By the way, one other piece on that Durant deal, according to ESPN with the sound turned down, the Miami Heat decided they would pass on Durant And Houston was asking for young players that Miami didn't want to give up, like Nikola Jovic, not Jokic, Jovic, the kid Ware, the center, Jaquez, the guard from UCLA, and Haywood Highsmith. So there were a lot of young pieces that Phoenix wanted, plus some draft assets, and Miami said, nah, we're good. But think about Miami. If you'd have had Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and then you throw in Kevin Durant, that would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. But anyway, so Kevin Durant now rolling off to the Houston Rockets. And the Rockets now become a real live contender in the West. They got the one thing they needed. So very interesting there. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Tristan's Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. The greatest day in the history of the world is June 23rd. We'll get into that next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Kel's hitting buttons, and I think Ed Bird's asleep. Oh, greatest day in the history of the world. Interesting stuff today, June 23rd. We like to go old school a little bit, take you back to the days before Sports Center. Even though we always say, but did it really happen if it wasn't on Sports Center? Is it true? Two of them, really old school. Check this out. On this day in 1917, Ernie Shore of the Boston Red Sox comes in relief for some pitcher named Babe Ruth, whatever happened to him. So Shore comes in to relieve Babe Ruth with nobody out and a man on first. The runner on first gets thrown out stealing. That's one out. Ernie Shore then retires the next 26 hitters in order. How about that? And Boston wins 4-0. 1922, Walter Hagen becomes the first native-born American to win the British Open. Walter Hagen was a thing, man. Well, then, obviously, Walter Hagen was greater. He wouldn't have been in Bagger Vance, right? Walter Hagen, all right, Jack Nicklaus has won the most majors. Tiger Woods has won the second most majors. Walter Hagen has won the third most majors. Hagen was known as the father of professional golf. He brought publicity, prestige, prize money, endorsements. Basically, Hagen was a bigger-than-life personality. And on this day, he became the first native-born American to win the British Open. This is a weird one. I got to throw this one out real quick, then we'll move on to the modern world. 1939. There was a football player named Bronco Nagurski who was really, really good back in the early 20th century. Nagurski, on this day, beat Lou, and I might get the name wrong, I don't care, Lou Thies, to win the National Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship. The NWA World Heavyweight title, Bronco Nagurski beat Lou Thies. Lou was considered the greatest wrestler of all time. Houston Mayor Holcomb presented Bronco Nagurski with a $10,000 diamond-studded belt. I'm sure that wasn't fixed. Anyway. All right, let's move on to the modern world real quick. 1988. The Charlotte Hornets and Miami Heat began their NBA expansion draft. You know, the Hornets, the original Hornets had some good teams. Muggsy Bogues, Grandmama Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, had some good squads. This rebirth of the Charlotte basketball team has been a disaster. But that team, the Hornets, they had some good squads. Of course, Miami, if you look at these two, much better. They've won multiple NBA championships. 3, I believe, off the top of my head. Pat Riley brought stability and winning to that organization. So obviously, of the two, Miami has been much more successful. Of course, the Hornets then went to New Orleans, became the Pelicans, and they still haven't done a whole lot. This day, 1991, a Mazda becomes the first Japanese car to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, overtaking a Mercedes in the last 3 hours. Think about that. A Mazda beat a Mercedes. Try that out here on I-20. 1996, one of the greatest track and field sprinters, more of a distance sprinter of all time, Michael Johnson broke the world record in the 200 meters. Johnson obviously had a nice little collection of gold medals. He was great at the 200, the 400, the relays. He broke the world record this day running a sub-20-second 200 at the U.S. Track and Field Trials in Atlanta. And, of course, then Johnson toured up at the Olympics. 1999, the Hockey Hall of Fame waives their usual 3-year waiting period and just said, Wayne Gretzky, screw it, dude, you're in the Hall of Fame. Matter of fact, the minute Gretzky retired, the Hall of Fame was like, you're in. Why wait? It's Wayne Gretzky. He won 8 MVP awards, I believe, in a row, and like 9 overall. Just Gretzky was just filthy. So this day in 1999, the Hockey Hall of Fame said, man, you're in. Come on. Come on. 2003, Barry Bonds steals second base against the Dodgers, becoming the first player in Major League Baseball history to have 500 career home runs, 500 steals, and a second head growing out of the back of his neck. But he never tested positive for steroids. How does your head get bigger when you get 40? Just saying. You know what's and seriously what's sad about Barry Bonds? He might have been the best player in the league before steroids. That's the sad part. That's what happens when ego takes over your body. It's just a shame. But on this day, Bonds gets his 500th career steal to go with 500 career homers. This day in 2005, Tim Duncan comes up huge in the second half, chosen finals MVP. San Antonio, you ready for this? You ready for this? In 2005, this is the actual final score of the NBA Finals Game 7. The Spurs beat the Pistons 81-74. If you miss that, and look, I know I got buddies, old school dudes who hate all the threes being shot in the NBA. I get it. Look, I love ball, and when there's a 3-on-1 break and they pass, and instead of taking it in for a dunk, some guy pass it out for somebody to shoot a three. Do I want to throw up in my mouth? Yes. But I will take the space and pace game of today's NBA over that mess any day. That wrestling match, that mosh pit with an orange round ball that was early 2000s NBA. 81-74 in Game 7. Your eyeballs burn. But San Antonio won Game 7. And think about how skilled that team was with Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. 81 points. I had higher scoring games at the Y. Ugh. Anyway, 2008 on this day, Felix Hernandez of the Seattle Mariners hits a grand slam. The first pitcher to go yard and hit a grand slam since Steve Dunning in 1971. Felix Hernandez was a heck of a pitcher. This day in 2011, some dude named Kyrie Irving goes first pick overall in the NBA draft to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh, well, let's give Kyrie Irving some props for a minute. I never thought I'd do this. Kyrie Irving, for a long time, was a me guy, not care about the team guy. It almost like he was looking for ways to crater everything around him. Remember, flat earther? But Kyrie Irving, since he went to Dallas, I don't know what happened. I don't know if Kyrie Irving had to come to Jesus with Kyrie Irving in the mirror one day when he was shaving. I don't know what happened with Kyrie Irving, but he became actually a mature team player. He's always had skill. Kyrie Irving's one of the most skilled dudes in the NBA offensively. Still allergic to defense. But Kyrie Irving's biggest enemy was Kyrie Irving. That's why he bounced around some. Nobody wanted to put up with the ridiculousness. Kyrie Irving single-handedly cratered the Celtics. And now you look at Kyrie Irving in Dallas these last couple of years. I know he got hurt last season, but you're like, who is this guy? So I just want to take a minute. I never thought I'd give Kyrie Irving props, but I am pleasantly surprised to see the path Kyrie Irving has taken the last couple of years. 2016, man. On this day, the Philadelphia 76ers select Ben Simmons with the first pick overall in the NBA draft. We'll talk about this every now and then on this show, that there are professional athletes who really don't love their sport. They just play the sport because they can make gobs of money. They like it, they put up with it, but they don't love it. And for us goobers who would kill to be them, we go, you seriously don't love this? Dude, I could go do that every day. If you're telling me, hey, bro, you got to go in the gym today and shoot 500 threes, really? And you're going to pay me how many millions? Okay, I'll suffer. Ben Simmons is the dictionary definition of a guy that really doesn't love basketball. He's highly skilled at it. He's really good at it. He's made a ton of money, but he doesn't love it. Never tried to get better, ever. Ben Simmons couldn't shoot. You know what Ben Simmons never practiced? Shooting. If Ben Simmons would have taken basketball seriously, locked himself in a gym and shot 1,000 threes a day for 3 or 4 months and became just a decent threat on the perimeter, Ben Simmons would be a Hall of Fame player. He could rebound, take the rebound, dribble it length of the court, either throw a behind-the-back pass or dunk over you. Ben Simmons was a hell of a defender. Ben Simmons just didn't love basketball, didn't really care. And then just proceeded to steal money from the NBA. But Ben Simmons taken first overall this day in 2016. What a waste, man. Ben Simmons, he might be the biggest waste in the history of the NBA. Unreal. So anyway, that's the greatest day in the history of the world. That was a fun one today, man. Some good stuff in there. All right, we'll come back here. We'll do our handoff with Jay Phillips from the postgame show, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine, and get our Firehouse Sub text the hour as well, 803-404-6100 halftime show. Jerry Ford, Ed Bird, Kale's here. Jay Phillips is coming in. We got one more segment to go on this little shindig right here on the game. Oh, we're just hanging out here. Halftime show. Get our Firehouse sub text the hour in 803-404-6100 in just a minute. Jay Phillips here, our handoff sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine.
Howdy.
I'm sure you didn't watch any of the College World Series or the NBA Finals or the Travelers. You really didn't do much of anything this weekend,
I feel
did you?
bad for Tommy Fleetwood, but he did kind of blow it, but I feel bad for him.
I do too, man. You know he's got the most top tens of any guy that's never won a tournament.
Yeah.
Poor dude.
In America. He's won in Europe and he's won in
he just can't win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, but he just can't win here.
How about Keegan Bradley's kid in the grandstand? He's got a bogey. And he actually did.
Keegan might become the first Ryder Cup playing captain since Arnold Palmer
I saw a little headline of that today.
Yeah. I think he should. He's having a fantastic season.
You know, he's a guy. How many years ago did he pop? And then he just kind of got passed by a bunch of dudes. Am I wrong?
I think he's
solid.
I think that's
right?
just it. He's won some money, and he's kind of like Matt Kuchar. He's like, you know what?
With that.
I got a good life.
You know, honestly, we always talk about, and you and I joked about this on the old halftime show, when a left-handed pitcher. Left-handed reliever, you can pitch till you're 50.
Yeah.
It's all good. Long snapper, six-figure living for a long time.
If you're a good left-handed reliever, you can throw, 50, 60 innings a year.
Yeah, man, you can make
you're pulling down more than the league minimum because
absolutely.
You're a specialist.
You're knocking off seven-figure living. Or the NBA being that coming off the bench in the NBA, make about 10, 12, 15 million.
Again, there's dudes I've never heard of that are pulling down 15 plus.
Just waving towels and playing like 10 minutes a game. But I would say, being a good golfer, solid golfer, is a nice living.
Yeah. Well, and yesterday Keegan won $4 million.
Ain't bad.
Because that's a signature event.
Well, that's radio money.
He won, yes. I was going to say something, but I won't. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so real quick, I know you're going to have a lot more thoughts on it when you and Elijah start yapping on the post-game show.
If you're going to ask me, you might just want to hold it because I got
a lot.
I got a lot.
I did too.
I got a lot.
I did too. And I'll just say this to you, and there's just so many, in this. The
only thing I'm going to say to you right now is what I'll open my show with. A lot of things can be true at one time.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
because I got a lot.
I'm like, because I was like, I guess where I go to is this. I mean, if you want to look at, Schnall and say, well, dude, you came out and you went, you have missed 3 pitches. Mm-hmm. Well, under the rules, you're gone, right? But if you're an umpire, don't you understand the moment of, this is the College World Series, an elimination game, and maybe I shouldn't have a quick trigger. All that's true, but here's my biggest question. I would love to know the criteria of the NCAA that put Angel Campos behind home plate. It starts there with me, Jay Phillips.
A lot of things can be true.
That's where I kept going back in what's left of my brain was, why is that guy even there? A fired guy from the major leagues. One reason he was fired was he didn't handle high-pressure situations very well. Is there more of a high-pressure situation in college baseball, Jay Phillips, and behind the plate during Game 2 of the College World Series?
Okay.
As an umpire?
That I will address here as opposed to yesterday's specific controversies. No, I think the only thing I will say it's not the biggest. Any type of super regional environment, any type of elimination environment.
Elimination, yes, is a huge thing.
And these are young kids that pour so much into it. Yes, I know in today's world they're being compensated, and yes, you might say they've always been, and whatever.
Whatever.
But they will not, to the point we made a minute ago, they will not be making, $10,000 a week or whatever. 10 grand a game for some of these guys. And so that part of it. Yeah, that's something, and I've said for years. So what I'm getting ready to say is not something new or in direct relation to yesterday's game. And this goes back, rest in peace, with our dear friend Tommy Moody. He and I used to talk about this so much. The number one thing that plagues college baseball umpiring is inconsistency behind the plate. Mm-hmm. It's just, and I get it's hard.
Oh yeah,
that's why college, at least in certain levels, probably ought to speed up an automated strike zone.
Absolutely.
Find out what they're doing in the independent league. Find out what they're doing in the minor leagues. How quickly could we incorporate that? At what level would we turn this off? In other words, I would think the Sun Belt Conference, American Conference, they can afford it. Certainly the Big 12 and the ACC and the SEC and the Big 10 can. And just, but that, so again, that's not a direct talk about what happened yesterday, and I've been following this sport a long time. And home plate umpiring is very problematic in college baseball.
I mean, and the thing
you can say it is anywhere, but it can be especially bad in college.
And plus, I guess with me, the other thing is, the Joe West mentality of umpires.
Yes.
That is another thing.
I'm leaving that one for later, too.
And the lack of accountability.
I'm leaving that for later, too.
At least have a pool reporter.
I'm leaving that for later, too. Trust me, sir. We have a we
Come here, man. All right.
In fact, it's so much that during Elijah and my meeting today, we decided not to speak to one another.
That's perfect.
About this topic.
Smart move. All right, you get a lot of that coming from the post-game
Wes
show.
Mitchell's going to join us as well to talk about a big football recruiting weekend.
All right, KO, go work. Ed, nice work. We'll do this again tomorrow.